Helmets off for safety. Welcome back to Random, and today's a bit of a different episode. We're actually going to be doing something called More Than a Pretty Face, and the ultimate goal, of course, is to have more than one episode covering this particular subject. Now, today's episode is going to feel a little on the slanted side. Certain kinds of people getting more attention than others. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot my editor and I can do about that at the moment. So, if you, the subscribers, if you, the viewers, have any suggestions, any people who might fit the bill for More Than a Pretty Face, please do leave a comment down below. My editor and I would be more than happy to cover them at a later episode. But for today, we have our subjects, and we'll just have to move forward with them. With that said, if it's 5 o'clock somewhere and you enjoy a cold beverage and groovy tunes, check out Beer and Song of the Day. The link to their channel will be in the description down below. Now let's get to it. More Than a Pretty Face. We'll start off with somebody that, for all intents and purposes, was the mother of modern technology. Things like microwaves, high frequency communication, very high frequency radio, Bluetooth, and that kind of thing. And her name was Hedy Lamarr, not to be confused with the district attorney for Rock Ridge in the movie Blazing Saddles. Hedy Lamarr was an Austrian actress who became prominent in Europe, particularly Paris. She got quite a bit of notoriety, quite a bit of fame. She made her way from Paris in the 1930s to Hollywood and began her Hollywood career. Around that same time, she got involved with another actor. Unfortunately, his name escapes me at the moment, but what they had the idea for was an unhackable guidance system for torpedoes for the Navy. Now, unfortunately, at that time, torpedoes didn't have a whole lot in the way of extra power on board, so they didn't necessarily have a whole lot of energy they could devote to other things like guidance. So, and unfortunately, torpedoes didn't have a whole lot of room. They needed room for fuel, they needed room for explosives, so the Navy didn't really see a whole lot of use for that. And unfortunately, that idea wasn't really pursued until after World War II. Now, Hedy Lamarr was also involved with a gentleman by the name of Howard Hughes. Now, if he sounds familiar, it's because he was a producer, a director, and an inventor. And more importantly, he owned TWA. He's also famous for building and flying some of his own aircraft, otherwise known as the Aviator. There was a movie about him with Leonardo DiCaprio. You can look it up at a later time. But Hedy Lamarr also came up with and helped better refine things like radar, LiDAR, fiber optics, and a host of other things. So even Bluetooth, the transmission of data and video over microwaves, that was her idea too. Now, she and Howard Hughes worked quite extensively on that. And unfortunately, a lot of those ideas and a lot of those inventions didn't really gain traction until people were able to actually use that particular technology, that particular way of transmitting data. So a lot of her fantastic ideas didn't end up actually going into production until things like integrated circuits and different sensors and different transmitters and receivers were capable of being made. So she was limited by the technology of her time, which is rather unfortunate. Okay, so we move from what is effectively the mother of modern technology, Hedy Lamarr, to another lady by the name of Norma Jean Mortensen. Now, if that name doesn't sound familiar, just wait. She was also known as Playboy Playmate #1, Marilyn Monroe. Now, she was a famous singer, songwriter, and actress. But what she was known for, aside from that, was starting her own production company, Marilyn Monroe Productions. Now, why that's important is because at the time, actors and actresses, they didn't really have a whole lot of method of protecting themselves when it came to negotiating contracts and provisions for different projects. So what she did during one of the contract negotiation conflicts with Fox Studios was, she said, if you're not going to pay attention to me as an actress, you're going to pay attention to me as the client of a production company. So what she did was she started Marilyn Monroe Productions, and a bunch of other actors and actresses signed on with Marilyn Monroe Productions, and that gave her leverage to better negotiate contracts and stipulations and provisions. Things like cinematographers, directors, producers, choreographers, writers, actors and actresses working on different projects with her. And it ultimately allowed future actors and actresses to have better footing when it came to negotiating for contracts for projects. So pretty important, at least as far as entertainment is concerned. Now, Marilyn Monroe was also unfortunately taken from us from, at the time, it was assumed barbiturates overdose. But, well, it's not exactly a tin helmet, but hear me out. The conspiracy theorists say that it was definitely a hit and not a suicide. And I'm inclined to agree with them for two reasons. Number one, she was involved with John F. Kennedy. Now, unfortunately, the Kennedys also had quite a lot to do with the mafia and the mob. So it wouldn't shock me at all if during one of the many rendezvous that Marilyn had with John F. Kennedy, she sat in and heard something from the mob that maybe she shouldn't have. Another theory is it was definitely the CIA, which, again, possible. Again, having one of those many rendezvous with John F. Kennedy, she may have heard something from the intelligence agency that they might not have liked. So, was it a suicide? Probably not. Was it a hit? Yeah, the evidence is pretty strong that it is. So we're going to move on from Norma Jean Mortensen to another lady who is a singer, a songwriter, and an actress by the name of Dolly Parton. Now, say what you will about her, she actually does have some really fantastic ideas when it comes to off-screen and off-camera activities. Things like her literacy program in Tennessee, where she goes around and donates hundreds of thousands of books to students in elementary schools so they can learn to read and learn to better themselves through literacy and education. And she also came up with a program called the Buddy Graduation Program, where students would pick a friend and they would focus on their studies and they would graduate together from high school. And after that, they would both receive $500 cash prizes to use for different things like new books, new materials, new things to continue their education and to grow as people. So say what you will about Dolly Parton, she's actually really a fantastic lady. And believe it or not, she actually kind of took a page out of Marilyn Monroe's book and took it a step further, where she said, looks get you into the room, brains keeps you there. And boy, did she stay there. Now we move on from the different ladies of Hollywood to a gentleman. This gentleman is Terry Crews. Now, a lot of people will know him from his football days. He played in the NFL. Teams like the Chargers, the Rams, the Packers, the Redskins, and the Eagles. He was a defensive lineman, a linebacker, and he was really good at his job. And of course, he went on to become an actor and a comedian. He's most famous for shows like Everybody Hates Chris and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. What a lot of people don't know is one of the things that actually helped him get into college and actually play in college football was a scholarship for art. Now, how he got that is he actually was a courtroom artist, and he would sit in trials and he would draw pictures of the defense and the prosecution and the judge and the jury and so on during different cases. And he's a fantastic artist, by the way, so that's how he got that scholarship. He's also a remarkable flute player. I believe the term is flautist. I could be wrong on that, but the overarching point being this: he's a fantastic musician as well. And at present, I believe he is currently studying architecture, but I could be wrong. Let's see. that about covers it for that. Now, like I said, this list isn't all encompassing, and I agree that there is definitely a slant more towards Caucasian women than anyone else. So again, if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. It definitely helps the algorithm. Tell me what we're doing right, tell my editor what he's doing wrong, and you know, basically help us to entertain and provide content for you guys. Well, that's about it for today's episode. I hope you learned something, and as always, keep it random.